Welcome to the Humans of Hospitality podcast. I know so many of you listening to this show love your local bar, your local restaurant, maybe your local hotel, and have so many fond memories of time in hospitality businesses. This is the podcast where we get to chat to the human beings behind the scenes of that industry. Maybe the chefs or the bakers or the coffee roasters or the gin distillers or the craft brewers or the entrepreneurs, but all doing an amazing job of making sure that hospitality stays interesting and the big, dull, formulaic brands do not take over our high street. Please enjoy the show. In this week's podcast, we are talking to the legendary rapper and coffee maker extraordinaire, Jimmy Cregan, co-founder of Jimmy's Iced Coffee. We're going to chat about how looking at a builder's backside was literally the catalyst that led to his version of iced coffee that is now stocked in pretty much every UK supermarket, and how Jimmy has his eyes set on global domination, including Ireland, Sweden, Dubai, Australia, and more. We also chat about some of the crazy things that Jimmy does to spread the word about his drink, including talking to audiences, actually dressed as a carton, and orchestrating what's known as a massive activation at a mainline railway station. We're going to find out how it felt for Jimmy when he needed to step away from the role of MD and handing his company over to someone who hadn't seen it grow up. I very much hope you enjoy this week's conversation. Jimmy, thank you for sparing the time to join me on this podcast. Take two.
Can I do the jingle again?
Yeah, go on. That is epic. Thanks. I'm going to pay you the 50 quid you told me about 2 minutes ago. I've got a confession. We started just luckily a few minutes ago and I didn't press the record button like a novice. But Jimmy's going to forgive me. And we started, Jimmy, by saying, look, I am in your awesome head office, not sat in a cupboard. Can you just set the scene as to where we are and how long you've been here? Well, not you've been here. How long, you've been here?
How long I'm going to keep you here locked in this cupboard. So this cupboard is actually our merch room where we sell merchandise, funnily enough, and it's not the most glamorous of places, but the rest of the office is pretty cool. So we are at Unit 1 Industrial Beaver Estate on 8 Airfield Road. Google map that. It's behind McDonald's. We're in the most uninspiring area of Christchurch, but we've polished the royal turd and it actually feels quite good here.
Google Maps actually knows where you are now. I actually left early today because any other time I've tried to come here I can't find it, but finally you are actually on a map, which is great progress compared to a few years ago.
Yeah, we have the most amazing digital lady called Amy, and we said, do you mind just like doing that pinpointy thing on Google? And she's like, yeah, it's kind of already done. So okay, thank you very much for that.
It is much helpful, much as you normally deliver your produce to us, but anybody who does want to come and see you can now do so easier.
Yes.
So it's a pretty cool space. How long have you been here, and upstairs in particular, what goes on here? How many people are here?
So we've been here for about 4 years. There's about 18 of us here. And that's basically everyone from finance, logistics, operations, marketing, digital, creative, events, and a few others, and I'm going to get beaten for not pointing anyone else out.
Yeah,
but,
like a thank you speech. And anyone else who knows me.
Yeah, and the bridesmaids, you all look stunning today.
Good work.
So that's the crew. Yeah, 18 of us. We all eat breakfast here. We all have lunch here. We all hang out, chat, do our thing, and we've got heaps of trees and fun stuff. So you spend so many hours working. It's nice to work in a decent kind of environment.
Yeah, it has got a proper kind of like buzzy energy up there, haven't you? And you've even got your own Gosney oven, I noticed, in the corner.
We have, thanks to Tom, cool. The hero. Yeah.
Do you have your own sort of Gosney chef in there as well, or have you
Tom actually came and cooked for us a couple of times because he's obviously just the pizza god, and that rings true. He is the pizza god, and we've actually got one of his rock boxes as well at home.
Amazing.
That we take down to the beach in the summer, and cooking our pizzas on his rock box is like it's off the scale. Food's just ridiculous.
Amazing. Yeah, Simon, we bought him one for his wedding, actually. One of my guys, Simon, bought him a rock box, which is cool. So actually, that reminds me, I bought it, I think, on the condition that he invited me to the beach to enjoy pizza. I don't think I've had that invite yet. So
come with me.
But Simon, if you're listening, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't need you anymore, Simon. I'm going for dinner.
Damn you to hell, Simon.
Going for dinner with Jimmy. So you are of, iced coffee fame, and I do want to talk about the story of how you set up. But it's kind of like, where do you start? You're so involved with so much cool stuff, from kind of, rap music to amazing merchandise we're surrounded by. And I thought the only place that I can start really is cars, because you've got so many, or you did have. I would be driving around town and I would see these amazing kind of Jimmy's branded cars, and I'd be thinking, as a man that drove around Australia, I think I did 20,000 miles in a 1971 V-Dub Combi.
Nice.
And loved it. But every 3,000 miles, I had to kind of take the engine apart and put it back together and service it.
Yeah.
And I thought, how the bloody hell can Jimmy run his delivery service on these amazingly cool cars that I think, if my memory's right, probably don't start very often, don't have any heating, probably cause some problems. Did they? I was quite relieved when I called up in the car park and you had a new van outside, and I was like, okay, so yeah, where's the car obsession come from?
I think it actually comes from Dubai, because I grew up in the Middle East, and the coolest cars in Dubai were Mercedes and Toyota Land Cruiser, and I'm fascinated in those two particular brands. But then, and I actually grew up with a really cool Swedish guy called Hampus, and his dad was infatuated with American classics, and he used to have a Cadillac. He had an old ambulance. He had a Jeep Wrangler. He had a couple of other cars, and I used to go around his house and just sit in these cars all day and smell like the leather and the kind of old school American interior kind of thing. So we knew that he was actually selling one of his trucks when he moved back to Sweden. So we picked up one of those. That's a Ford F100 pickup. That's a 1973. It's a 5-litre V8. It's filth. Drove it home and actually took it to Christchurch Tyres to get the tyres redone. And the chap said, "How far have you driven to change these tyres? Because these are literally, they should have exploded." Do you know? In fact, he said they're 27 years old. I said, "I've just driven from Sweden," and he was just like, "Oh my god, you're crazy." So luckily they didn't burst. And then I got an old T200 Mercedes estate. It's a W123. That's real beaut. It's a little rust bucket. I've just bought my wife Soph Jeep Cherokee, which is real sweet. It's an old one, so none of these cars cost a lot of money, but they're just old school, and they don't
cost a lot of money when you buy them. Do they end up costing a lot of money when you keep them on the road, or not too bad?
No, they're actually okay. We had a Ford S-Max, which I've just beautifully parted ways with. I hate the thing, and it's all about ECUs and computers, and the battery would drain every night. I had to bump start it literally every single morning with jump leads, and it just got into a routine like eating cereal and then go outside and jump start the car. So I'm not a fan of those new Fandango ones. I'd much rather have something that's just an engine with spark plugs and a I don't even know what I'm talking about, but like a really, really standard basic engine.
Yeah.
And then fortunately the guys upstairs, James Scudamore, who's our creative assistant, he's really into V-Dub, so he's got a bug in our second unit. Steve, our finance guy's got an old SL which is being fixed. He's got a rally car that he did the Pan America rally in 2 years ago, which he won, and now that's back at the rally place getting serviced. And then everyone's kind of into that kind of stuff. And we've also got an old Land Cruiser over there, and big Merc fan and stuff. And they give you so much pleasure, because like new cars now, they're just so boring, and they have to conform to aerodynamics and all these safety tests. But then you can rock around in essentially like a house brick, a V8 house brick, and it's just fun. It's way better.
Cool. And presumably you didn't set up Jimmy's Iced Coffee thinking this will be a really good route for some amazing cars. It just kind of happened. I just love the fact that you've managed to keep that passion alive when a lot of businesses would end up going, "Oh no, we've got to get a corporate fleet of, I don't know, whatever, caddy vans or something like that." But
we do actually have that. We've got 4 transit vans, all ranging of different sizes. So our local guy, Matty P, who sells into local places like yourselves, Urban Reef, he drives that around, and he's got to have something reliable and where he can pump music and dial into Bluetooth and all that kind of stuff. Then we've got another guy called James Wheeler who checks out all of the compliance just to make sure that we're actually on shelf in all these supermarkets. So 1 minute he's in Bristol, 1 minute he's in Brighton, so he needs a reliable wagon. And then we've got a crew cab transit so that we can go and do big missions. And then we've got a transit normal one that we can load up with gear. And for example, we're going to Boots in Waterloo this Sunday to do a massive activation, and we can use that van for that. We wouldn't dare take the American pickup to that, because A, we'd probably spend about $2,000 on fuel, and B,
you'd arrive on the back of an AA van.
Exactly. So maybe we won't be spending that money on fuel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as long as you've got good cover. Yeah.
Perfect.
I've got to ask. I can't just let you go. You're going to Boots to do a massive activation. What is this? You're activating what? The troops?
So
what is that?
We are
is this
in.
the lingo?
Oh, it's kind of like it's like experiential marketing stuff. So where you physically have a presence somewhere. So do you know Waterloo Boots?
Yes,
it's got like
where the trains go. I know we're in the country.
Yeah,
but,
so
Waterloo
it's
in
got
London,
it's got
the
a big
city.
got a big foyer that Network Rail own, but it's kind of part of Boots.
Yeah.
So we're doing a big thing in there. We're going to be sampling every day from like during the rush during the morning and then in the evening.
Amazing.
Handing out
cool.
free cartons to people, letting them know that we exist, and then hopefully people find out that you can also get us in Whistle Stop and the M&S there as well.
That's a cool location. Is that again the business in me can't not ask these kind of questions? So is that off the back of a Boots thing? Because to pay to be in Waterloo Station doing Jimmy's iced coffee presumably would be about £1 million. But if you do it with Boots who are already there,
you
I
get it for
presume
free.
that's quite helpful.
But don't tell anyone else.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't let this podcast go anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to do the hard graft first and presumably get into Boots. I mean, they know you're coming, right?
God, yeah. I mean, we've been there. We've been in Boots for the last year or so.
Yeah. So it's not like someone at home can listen and go, I'm just going to go and take my shit to Boots in Waterloo.
And not say, are you Stockton there? It's like, no.
Yeah.
Why would we be doing this in the first place?
That's cool, isn't it?
So it's going to be fun. Yeah, it's going to be real cool.
Amazing. Good. Okay, thank you. And we should probably move away, otherwise it will sound like an episode of Top Gear. But weirdly, the other thing that I always think about with you, and it's twofold. I either see a builder bending down and think of you, or I think of you, and then in my head I see a builder bending down and his ass cracked. Do you want to just explain, because it feels a bit weird, do you want to explain why that happens? Because that's kind of, I think, from memory, the trigger
part
point
of the
as to
reason,
why all of this exists. You're not the only reason.
Yeah, no.
But, why, Jimmy? Why do I look at you and think of a builder's ass?
I have no idea. That's what's the next question.
Please don't leave me hanging there.
No, it's just a case of you're either plateauing in life, you're either spiraling up and having the best time, or you're heading down. And at one stage in my life, I was just careering out of control and ready for a kind of rock bottom finish. And that was just because I was just doing dead end jobs. So part of my winter life down in Bournemouth was being a labourer and working with old builder dudes, and you're being paid like really rubbish money. Outside work is fine, but when you're humping bricks around all day, it gets pretty repetitive and pretty tiring and quite mind numbing. And then the summer job was doing the festival circuit, being on stages, shouting at people, wearing various different costumes. And one day it was the trigger point. It was actually just seeing one of these old dudes bend over and just seeing the full builder's bum on show, and I just kind of thought, this is such a load of horseshit, and kind of realised, my whole life just flashed before my eyes. I'm just kind of slow clapping myself going, Jim, congratulations, man. You look at you. Take a look. You're 27. Well done. You've got yourself a degree. You've done all these amazing things. But you're staring at that old guy's bum for 50 quid a day. I mean, this is horseshit. You need to sort yourself out. So that was my spurring moment to get on out of here. So that's the builder's bum story.
That's why.
Yeah.
And that was the trigger, and that was then travelling that came off the back of that, wasn't it?
That was literally as soon as we could afford. We didn't even afford it. I got a credit card, and we put flights on a credit card, because that's a real big lesson. Is rather than saving up for something, just buy it, and then you have to work to pay it off. Particularly with
great
flights.
Message for the kids. I'm glad you ended with then you have to work, not just if you want something, get a credit card and buy it.
Just get a credit card and buy it. Perfect.
Yeah.
No, but the good thing was we booked it in like July. Our tickets to go to Oz for November. And then we knew that we had to save every penny in between July and November, because by the time we got to Oz, we didn't want to have to work again for the rest of our lives, because we'd obviously retired on working in a bar and staring at an old guy's bum. But yeah, we had saved up enough money to fly and then get there and be able to buy a 4x4 and then just hoon around the country, surfing, hanging out, drinking, parking in the most amazing spots, being chased by spiders and having the most epic time, and stumbling across ready-to-drink iced coffee.
Yeah. And was that your first iced coffee? Because again, like I say, I'm a little bit aware of your story, and I'm going to get more into kind of like, what's happening now, because I know you've told it a few times. But was that the first? Had you had iced coffee before, or was it literally your first memory of it?
It was the first time I'd ever seen it. And what's kind of weird is it obviously existed in the supermarkets here in the UK before I left, but none of the branding or none of the packaging or none of the products on shelf even looked at me and said, "Hey Jim, check me out," because they were just so uninspiring. So when I went to Oz and found one that did look at me and go, "Hey Jim, check me out," I was like, "Woo-wee, you are hot," or cold. So I picked one of those out of the fridge. Just like, shit, I really like the design. I really like the packaging. And then when I actually drank the product, I was like, oh my God, this is the most ice cold, refreshing, caffeinated thing I've ever had in my life. And then I was like, right, I'm hooked. And then how do I get this from Australia to the UK? And so I wrote to this company who owned this brand called Farmers Union Iced Coffee. And I was like, dudes, I'm a part-time mermaid shouting at people on a microphone. I stare at old guys' bums for a living, but I've just found your iced coffee. Give me your license. I want to come to the UK, make it myself, make some money, stop staring at old guys' bums, and crack on. But they said no 4 times in a row, and that then made me even more hungry just to start it off myself. And then it kind of did.
Then it happened. Do you ever go back to them? Have they ever got in touch? You've told this story a few times. They've come back and go, "Are we that coffee company and we're really sorry"?
Yeah, they it was actually the senior brand manager for this Farmers Union company sent us an email and just said, first of all, I apologise for not taking you seriously, because you've obviously done a really good job in the UK. Amazing. And also wanted to he was really thankful and just said, I'm so glad that we can we kind of triggered your brain to go and start a whole new career and new lifestyle and everything. And we ended up having a really, really cool chat. He was a really, really good dude.
How long into setting up Jimmy's was that?
About 3.5 years.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, so they maybe been watching from the sidelines, and then because I feature or talk about Farmers Union so much, it must get picked up in searches and stuff like that online. And so I guess that's kind of how they found us. And they were like, "Oh man, good on you, keep going."
Yeah, good. Do you export at all yet? Or
we will export to Oz soon, and we will overtake sales of Farmers Union Iced Coffee.
Is that an actual fact?
Well, it's a pre-fact, yeah. Let's call it. No, I don't know yet. We'll see. I mean, you know what? The dream for me would be to set up an office in Oz, because I genuinely love that place. It's hot. It's rad. There's surf all day. You can travel so much. You can off-road like wherever you want. I'm a big fan of off-roading, and here you see a puddle and you drive through it and you get excited. But in Oz, you can actually properly go. You can get lost and find the most amazing places with no one around. Like Tasmania, for example, we just did that. That looks interesting. And you peel off the main road, and before you know it, you feel like you're in Jurassic Park. And then you turn up to a beach where there's waves and there's no one there, and you're just like, okay, well, this is the best thing in the entire world ever.
Yeah, I'm guilty, as you've just seen me putting into your car park, of having a discovery and going, oh look, puddle, and like cool car. And worse than that, I've done some of their off-road days. So it's a Land Rover.
Oh,
got
cool.
These kind of days where they take you off and they teach you about what your car can do.
Yeah,
and there's no getting away from the fact it's amazing. But I'm like, when am I ever going to put on that hill descent control, take my feet off all of the pedals, and then like inch by inch, it's going to creep me down the edge of
Sea Road down to Boscombe.
You know what? The only time that it does get used, when it snowed and there was all that ice and snow last year, I was the only smug git going around.
Amazing.
But having that car and justifying it for about 45 minutes every 5 or 6 years is a bit weird.
Discover more tarmac. Perfect.
I was gonna try and sort of justify it a little bit more by saying that I've got a caravan, and then I realised that I'm only going to get less and less cool in this conversation.
That's so true. Yeah.
So I should probably just quit.
Don't bring that bit up.
And say that I did commute to the Urban Reef earlier on an electric skateboard, just as the kind of contra to that, which was good fun. So we'll fast forward a little bit. I particularly remember, and I have this flashback, and it's quite cool, of you and I don't know, maybe it was like 7 years. No, because what year did you set up?
2011 we started selling.
2011. Okay, so maybe it was 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
It stood on the Urban Reef deck. So it was early days for me, early days for you.
Yeah.
And I think I was out there doing a barbecue, and you were out there with kind of some eskies of
we actually had a little gazebo that day.
Yeah, it was like Airfest kind of weekend.
Yeah.
And little did we know, stood there 7 years ago next to each other, going, well, this is pretty cool. You know, we're overlooking the ocean. You're going to flog a bit of coffee. I'm going to flog hopefully a couple of hot dogs and a burger.
Which is the most
we're still
important
here, Jimmy,
thing.
which is cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
But just again, like what's different now? What's happened, and how different is it to what you thought would happen in that time frame between the deck and now, I suppose?
Well, you can never foresee into the future. I never had any idea of what it would be like, even from a sales point of view, from a staffing point of view, from any kind of point of view. You just have these kind of aims that we're just going to keep growing, and it'll be amazing. So I guess those two things have happened. It's been amazing, and we're still growing. Amazing in the fact that we get to not just meet people, but hire really, really cool people, and also learn a ton of stuff as well. You never, ever stop learning. So in that respect, it's been epic. You know, seeing when we moved into this warehouse. It was just 3 of us, and we did feel, we're just knocking around. There's no one here, and now the whole place is full, and we've got the most amazing MD called Rick, and he's super helpful with actually doing proper targeting and funneling where the business needs to go and getting the sales team talking to the marketing team and then working with the finance team to make sure budgets are all right and online and setting proper deadlines and all that kind of stuff. I'm the kind of guy who goes, hey, dude, do you want to come and work with us because we're having fun? They turn up and you're like, oh, God, I've just done the completely wrong thing. But then you kind of just get a little bit more serious and you hire the right people to do the right jobs, and suddenly you've got a proper business. So if someone comes in and checks out our books, for example, they go, holy shit, you're like a proper legitimate business doing good things, and it's all structured and it's all right, and all from a stupid idea I had by seeing some iced coffee in a fridge in Oz. That kind of thing baffles me quite a lot. But it's good because you have to kind of think about that quite a lot, about the reason why you're doing things, and it kind of refreshes your head as to the journey and where it's going.
Yeah. And when you started it, did you presume, were you trying to set something again, this will be cool, this will be like a lifestyle business, I'll make a few quid, happy days? Or were you pretty confident that it would end up being that this was going to be a big thing, kind of like available in every bloody Waitrose?
Yeah, that was the thing. I just didn't like any of the products on the shelf. I'm not going to name any names. One of them doesn't pay any tax or pays very little tax. And the thing is, for me, I was basically being selfish. I wanted to pick up my iced coffee wherever I went in the UK and beyond. So if I'm up in the Outer Hebrides and I've got a bit of a thirst on, I want to be able to go to my corner shop and pick up a Jimmy's. I don't want to pick up anything else. So that's where the kind of hunger or thirst came from to grow the business. I think added to which, when you're working with a contract packing company who actually makes the product for you, they want volume from you. Otherwise, they'll just switch you off and go and find someone else who wants to sell loads. And obviously selling loads is better because you can get more money into the account to then reinvest into the company to hire more people and essentially have more fun doing what you're doing.
Nice. I remember reading, I think probably slightly enviously at the time, and I can't remember 2 or 3 years ago maybe, but I remember you did some publicity around when you first paid off your debt. And it was kind of like, whoa, we're debt free for the first time. And I think my mortgage was about 1.3 million on the business at the time. And I went, wow, I've probably got quite a way to go. So different business, but it really stuck in my mind. Has that continued to be the case? Have you needed to then go off and get finance in a different way to expand, or are you self-financed now?
No, we've been self-financed. It really was just mum and dad who gave us...
It's the only reason I came.
It was just mum and dad gave us the first heap of money that we had, and luckily we paid them back because it was like a loan and a shareholding at the same time. So we paid them back the money, and then now they continued to be shareholders and they get dividends each month off the back of that too. And that for me was like our biggest thing. And then since then, thanks to innovations in a bit of IT, so being able to do invoice discounting. And then being able to, we use a company called Funding Circle whenever we need to get hold of a little bit of cash, but it's very rare we need to do that these days because Captain Excel spreadsheet, Mr. AutoSum, aka Steve McKay, our finance director, is squeaky bum with money, and he just keeps cash flow like on point. He's like a lunatic. He's so good at it. If it was up to me, I would probably be digging holes again on the financial side, but he's good at keeping those reins tight, and he's awesome.
And you so need that, don't you? Somebody's got to be on the numbers, like a grown-up who really properly enjoys numbers and then draws you a picture of what the numbers mean.
Yeah,
right.
Totally. Here's a picture. Here's
a picture of what all of that
This is the car that you can't buy next month. Yeah. It's pretty much every car that you've ever not liked or liked, you can't get.
So what's your role now then? Now that you've surrounded yourself by some nearly grown-ups at least, what's Jimmy's bit?
That's a good question, actually. At the beginning of the year, I took a little bit of time out because I was just kind of knackered. So I had about 3 months out, and that was while Rick, our new MD, came in. And it was just amazing to be able to step completely vacant from the company. And I got into like a load of like hot yoga and doing a load of running, and I stopped drinking booze. And I actually, funnily enough, stopped drinking coffee as well. And it was actually a really nice kind of just proper break, because I'd never actually taken proper time out. Because even on holiday, you kind of itch and scratch and you're worrying and you're checking your phone. It's just like, geez, you just need to properly calm down, but it's quite hard. So I actually kind of forced myself into doing it. And I did that, which was great. And then I've come back into the business kind of 2-3 days a week, but now I'm back in full time. But I can, if I need to leave at 3 so I can cycle and pick up my kids from school, then I can do that. And if I want to take my kids to school in the morning as well, then I can do that, which is what we're all here to do, to be able to have a bit more flexibility in my work-life balance. That's what I've managed to achieve. But predominantly within the business, it's doing things like being able to be more of an ambassador for the brand. So rather than keeping my head down and working on stuff that I'm actually not all that good at, I can go and do the stuff that I am good at. And that's kind of going and inspiring kids to set up their own businesses and things like that, and then kind of championing the brand and kind of being wheeled into big buyer meetings whenever we've got issues or something like that. So that's kind of my role now, which is way better than what it used to be.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
You're obviously on every carton. Do you have to do a lot of modelling work? Do they change the picture very often, or is that?
We've actually, it was one photo. It was actually one picture, and that picture has now gone because we've been fighting with. I mean, it started out with me being a lunatic saying, "Hey, you should try our iced coffee," and it's actually now. Check out this iced coffee. It's kind of run by a lunatic. So actually, the product and the ingredients and all the other emotional reasons to buy the product come first, and then you check out about Jim later on.
Okay. Are you not on the carton anymore?
Face isn't. The name is obviously because it's still Jimmy's.
Even on it, because I know you sort of went from the front for a little while, and then there was a sort of mini you on the back. Have you gone completely?
Gone completely, yeah. So now it's more about the legacy and the kind of tone and the.
Are there some of those original cartons still around?
Oh yeah, there's got to be a couple in the drawer. Good. I actually there's a guy on social media who's recently said, "Will you give me some props and big love for me getting a tattoo of the big man's face?" And we were all like, "Oh my, is this actually like real?" But apparently, yeah, there's a dude who's going to get the cartoon face that was on the side of the pack. He's going to get it tattooed somewhere on the 28th of this month or something.
Wow, really?
So that's quite.
Are you invited to the kind of like the launch or the
no,
reveal?
No, but I'm kind of I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a bit of the body you know. There's definitely a bit you don't want to be on. I'm wondering.
I know exactly which bit that is. Yeah. So I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see.
Cool.
Yeah. So keep your eyes out on social for someone having a tattoo
ends up on Instagram. All of a sudden,
face.
there's 2,500 people kind of getting Jimmy tattooed.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
I remember seeing a guy in a nightclub that I used to be an assistant manager of, and he had like Noel and Liam Gallagher tattooed on his back.
Yeah.
And then I think just like about a week later, they split up from Oasis or something, and you're kind of like,
you can't do that to your back, innit? You can go to the gym and pull them apart a little bit.
Make them smile even more.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But interesting.
So, what was the trigger then when you went to put an MD in place? That's quite a big move because that was kind of your thing and you'd built it. What made you decide to bring in somebody to run the company?
Or two things. One, just being totally exhausted, doing stuff. Doing that role, and then also actually realizing that you're not any good at that role. So the MD role is the day-to-day, proper hardcore kind of running of the company, and that involves hiring and firing and setting KPIs and targets and managing and making all the departments work and sing together, all in harmony. And I'm just not that guy. I'm the guy who goes, "Oh my God, look at that product! Let's go and make it," and run like a lunatic and get it made. But then. After that, when it's all established, you need people who are a lot more steady. I can kind of be up and down and I'm very emotionally driven. Whereas, Rick he's very emotionally driven, but he's because he loves the company, but he's very stable, and he just knows exactly. I mean, he's trained in this kind of stuff. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to course correct stuff, make people get the best out of people. He's insane.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Was that hard to find somebody? Was it someone you knew? Did you just go out there and recruit? Or?
Well, I felt really bad because he said to me, "Oh, Jim, we met at the London Coffee Festival." I was like, "Oh yeah, we did." And he's like, "You don't remember that at all, do you?" And unfortunately, I don't remember because you meet thousands of people at trade shows. And but yeah, he was working. He was on the books of a recruitment company that we were working with, and eventually he just kind of came in and he helped us out with the Tesco project for a few days. And we were like, "Oh, this guy's got way more credentials than just helping out with a small Tesco project," because he was asking all these amazing questions that we weren't even answering ourselves or even asking ourselves. And we thought, actually, can you come in for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days a week? In fact, do you want to be our MD? Hello. Amazing. Okay. And then it's been, just over a year now. And
so you didn't go out and recruit specifically for an MD. It was a bit of consultancy stuff and then ended up.
Yeah, but funnily enough, even about 3 weeks before he got in touch with us, we went out for dinner in Baffy in Southbourne, and I just said, "Guys, I'm done on the MD thing, and I want to hunt for someone." And it was kind of like a mixed reaction between the directors of, "But we're all okay. But yes, I do understand there could be a couple of holes that need filling." And I was just like, "Trust me. First of all, I can't do it anymore. And secondly, if we do find someone with the skill set, you will notice the most amazing difference." And that difference has happened in these last 12 months. And it's really, really amazing. And he's chained upstairs. He ain't going nowhere.
That's awesome. Because I think it's easy to recognise it in yourself that maybe you don't want to do that role anymore.
Yeah.
But to actually, then often the point is, sell the company, but to actually go out and go, yeah, you know what, I'm still going to hang around. It does happen, but I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens enough. So but pretty cool. So
it's
congratulations.
Great. It's so cool knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at,
definitely.
and just going, well, I suck at that. Let's get someone else to do that. And that's just plain simple. And it takes so much stress off your hands. When you try to do something you're not any good at, you just put your hand up and say, I'm not the guy for this role, so don't hire me because I'm not that guy. But I can do this, that, and the other really well. So let me focus on that.
Nice. And the trajectory is still positive. I read something that I think it was 2017, and you were doing just over 3 million turnover, and you were hoping to get up to about 5. And is that all still kind of like? Because it strikes me in business that the market constantly pivots and changes, and you kind of you have these plans and you think it's going to happen, and then you're like, well, where the hell did that come from? And what's this? And is it pretty much going like on the trajectory you expected, or is it still a roller coaster?
Do you know what? Steve again, AutoSum, and the rest of the finance team, they're really accurate on their forecasting, because you base it on all of your previous years of selling. So in the summer you're going to get a good flow from, let's say, April up until July, August time, and then September it'll flatten out a bit and then come back down again during winter. So you kind of work on that, but you put a, let's say, 10, 15, 20% growth rate on that each year, depending on which customers are pending, how many more stores you've been given, how much NPD you've done, how many new products you're going to be putting on the shelf, and things like that. So we're actually pretty accurate. And this year, we're going to be doing well over 5 this year, which will be great.
Amazing.
And then we've got a kind of like a 5-year forecast as well, and it's simply applying a 35% growth rate each year on each year, and we can do that because we've got all of international to chase. So we've got Ireland working at the moment. We've got Sweden. We're back in Dubai for the Middle East doing some stuff over there with Spinneys. So there's more and more doors that we can just keep opening, and now we've got resource and the crew to be able to do it. It only gets more exciting.
Well, have they responded? Is there now other U's that weren't there when you started? Has there been a kind of reaction to like this side curveball of Jimmy kind of popping up and doing his rap video and taking market? And is their response having an impact, or actually is it just becoming a bigger market for everybody?
Really cool questions. And I think it's just, you look at like the whole food and drink market, everything's becoming very micro. So you can pick up a gin that's to the postcode of BH. I mean, you look at Conquer Gin doing insanely well. But you can also get one from Lilliput, and you can get one from Christchurch, you can get one from Westbourne. And so it's amazing that you can actually buy whatever kind of food or drink you want pretty much almost from your next door neighbour kind of thing. I think we were one of the first back in the day, this is 8 years ago, that we went to our contract packer and said, look, we want to make iced coffee. And then people go, God, if that bearded lunatic can do it, then so can I, because I don't want to work in an office anymore. There's enough risk working for a big company as there is in risk in just starting your own thing. So there's a lot more people doing it, but as there's a huge number of people coming in, there's many more barriers to entry, because, rather than getting one email a week saying, I want to come and work with you, getting 100, and then you're kind of like, right, I need to put a filter on this and understand who's got the cash, how many boundaries can I put up, or how many walls can I put up to stop these people from entering the market and stuff. You still got the original guys who are still doing their thing, and they have their loyal following for one reason or another. We have our following, and we're quite good at making people switch from the main competitor to us, which is quite fun, just through fun USPs. But yeah, it's always a battle. And you've got Coke have just bought Costa, so no doubt Costa are bringing out an iced coffee. And I personally, if there's any major chain of coffee that I drink, it would be Costa, and I kind of like some of their products. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of products they bring out on the back of it, and how we retaliate, and how we try and squeeze into the marketplace and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you're always firefighting. Otherwise, you're sat in a lilo doing nothing, which sounds fun, but you get bored after 5 minutes.
Yeah. So where the certainly in the craft beer market. So I was chatting to Steve at 8 Arch in Wimborne a few weeks ago.
Love that stuff.
Amazing beer, isn't it?
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, I had 2 yesterday actually.
Did you? Yeah, I've got some in my fridge at home. Yeah, and it's got it's actually our brewed for us. So it's got St. Nick on the front. So it's a Christmas beer, and it feels like I shouldn't be drinking Santa beer anymore. But like a couple of those every evening as I'm just trying to wind down. What kind of beer is it? It's kind of a red ale basically.
Oh, nice.
Ale. It's nice. Yeah. You can come in. It's in the venues. We said it all year. It's normally Angel of the Marsh, but we rebranded it as St. Nick for Christmas.
Yeah, cool.
All based around smugglers and pioneers. But the point being with the big brands is that they're starting to see, certainly in the beer section and in the gin section, they kind of cotton on. So they see this craft movement. And it was the same with me when I opened Urban Beach, and it was a boutique hotel.
Yeah.
And then you kind of, what's a boutique hotel? And I was kind of, well, it's, like 5-star standards and service, but it's only 12 bedrooms. It's really small, so it's really personal.
Yeah.
And then, 18 months later, there's a 157 bedroom boutique hotel open in town. And you're like,
that ain't boutique.
Yeah, you're kind of, hang on, like, a boutique, I think it's French for small. I'm not sure. And then you're like, well, how do you define small? There's like a 1,000-room hotel in London. And it's the same with craft. You how do you define craft beer?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of know what I think. It's not big batch produced. I sort of know who the guy is owning it.
Yeah.
And the same in gin with Rupert, who you mentioned. I worry or notice that the big guys kind of come along and they start to copy some of the words that are used and some of the branding.
If I hear the phrase handcrafted again, I think I'm just going to chop myself up and put myself in a cool box.
What does it mean? But the trouble is, it's kind of like, what word do you use? Because then you're kind of like, well, then they have to come up with another word to use to differentiate themselves from the big players. And that's kind of the point of this podcast, is to get people to think about whether they're supporting the slightly more edgy, entrepreneurial, interesting human being who's genuinely super passionate about what they're doing and isn't just run by some boardless bunch of corporates in London who are VC backed from a multinational kind of load of people who are anonymous and stuff like that. So whilst you see it in the other sector, I don't suppose, I haven't seen it in the iced coffee sector. I guess it's not so big, but people aren't, the big guys with the really deep pockets presumably aren't mimicking you. Are they responding already? And are they going to live to regret it because you're going to come and kick their butts?
No, they're still doing their thing. They're still.
Are they getting cooler?
No, they're definitely not getting cooler. They kind of stick to their guns on what they do, which is totally fine, because they've established their audience, and they don't necessarily need to change their audience. They just need to get more of the same audience, so they just do the same stuff. But they don't. It's an interesting one, but we just like to do stuff differently and do stuff better. So for example, we use Tetra Pak at the moment, and it's a foil lining with a cardboard outer, and then you've got your plastic lid, and we've just made a much better plastic lid, which is sourced from the ethanol from, God, why has the word just escaped me? This is just not. It's basically a plant-based thing.
It's a plant lid. Then,
yeah, it is. I'm sorry, the word has just completely escaped me.
Yeah.
Essentially, so we're trying to do better things as much as we possibly can. But so by 2020, we want to be plastic free, and we want to be in a vessel that's going to be like 100% recyclable. So something like a can for us is a really, really good thing, because it's one ingredient, it's infinitely recyclable, and it's just a complete no-brainer. When you got David Attenborough on the last series of Blue Planet 2 going, dudes, you're really messing up here. It's not a cool thing. And I went down to Kimmeridge the other day with my family just to go and have a walk, and there's a beautiful waterfall there, and the sea's amazing. And I stumbled across a Tetra Pak lid, and it could have been from our carton, it could have been from someone else's carton. But I look at it and go, well, there's a potential that I could be contributing to that, and that kind of doesn't make your heart sing. And we want to do stuff that does make our heart sing, so we have to put these things in place to be able to go, do you know what, let's do some changing. And then hopefully when you tell people about it, they go, well, I'm going to jump ship from these other companies because they're totally plastic. And it's nice when we're already making that effort, which is great, but you just don't see it from the other guys. So hopefully that will all change.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fascinating.
Sugarcane is the cap. There it is. It's
sugarcane.
Yeah, made from sugarcane.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good.
Not fossil fuels.
But don't eat it. That's not.
Don't eat it. No, because it's still plastic. It's just where it's derived from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I was with Joe at Bad Hand chatting about the environmental impact and the amount of work now going on with so many people to kind of to minimise the impact of their product. And I think whilst recognising coffee comes in from around the globe basically, doesn't it? So there's transport implications and stuff like that. And I don't think we should stop living, but I really hope that we're at a point where we can kind of change momentum. It's tricky in business, and does the demand chicken and egg? Does it come from the consumer? Does it come from what's actually available to put your stuff in? I look in my sector, we were chatting about this earlier, but a kind of journey around food and around eating meat, and then I got into looking at beef farming, and then I got into looking at the environmental impact of farming beef, and you kind of go, oh God, this was really good when I didn't know this, but now I know it. And you see how much kind of land on planet Earth is kind of dedicated to it. And a bit like you, I'm kind of like, I went into business because I think I'm a good guy. I want to kind of take my kids to the beach and I want to have a nice life. But I definitely didn't come on planet Earth to kind of leave it in a shitter place than when I arrived.
So true.
And the more you learn, it's this real balance between kind of going, okay, with the beef thing, it's kind of like, look, we're not in a position yet where we can just turn it off and shut it down. It's got to be, people will start eating less meat when there's a better alternative. So when there's a really nice kind of alternative product. And I think it's changing now. I think we're starting to get some really kind of cool and interesting food.
Yeah.
We were chatting earlier about Ollie from Lunch, and the fact that, he was the first guy, probably with both of us, who made broccoli taste like, maybe better than a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
We were like, how did he do that?
Yeah.
What did he put on it?
Yeah.
But
and even those like have you tried the Meatless Farm Co?
Yeah, not yet. But,
well, they do mince and they do burgers, and we had some of their burgers the other day, and they were off the scale. And
Really?
There's that company Beyond Meat in the States
that's
that's
right.
scientifically made it look like there's how beef has all those strands in it. They've done all that kind of stuff. And I had some of their sausages and one of their burgers at a trade show in the States the other day, and it was just like, wow, this is really, really cool. I'd totally chop out a burger for one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Things.
Yeah, I was listening to they're called the Good Butchers in Canada the other day, and it's all they're called the Good Butchers, and it's all plant-based butchery, so plant-based sausages and burgers and all that kind of stuff.
Woof.
Growing hugely. I mean, admittedly they're in Canada, so I couldn't eat it, but it sounded incredible. And you think, great, there you go. Now there's an inevitability. Now there's an alternative to supply and demand, isn't it? What came first? There was a bit of demand, but the supply, I think, is actually changing really fast. So people are kind of going, well, okay, yeah, exactly. I don't mind. I'll try that breakfast. I'll try that meal.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good. Point being, I suppose, you're on the case. I'm kind of on the case, but it's not an instantaneous fix, isn't it? I can't stop people eating beef burgers.
As long as you're doing better than your next door neighbour. Like for us, with our competitors, we're working a lot harder to make it a better thing. Whether it's in our products or the things that we do for CSR and 1% of our profits to charity and things like that. We know that we're working harder to make it a better place.
Yeah, cool. Well, good luck with that. It's exciting.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Carrying on that kind of, big brand kind of thing, what's your thoughts? Obviously I'm particularly, we're called the Humans of Hospitality podcast. It's anything around food and drink, but I'm particularly interested in the kind of the cafes and the bars and the restaurants, and the fact, similar to craft beer, you used to know when you walked into a big chain branded pub, and now they're getting better at hanging up the kind of industrial lighting and the kind of like a bearded hipster behind the bar, and there's a leather booth sofa and whatever it might be. They're getting better at making themselves look like the little guy until you eat the food and you go, this is a bit average, and you look on the back of the menu and you go, oh, okay, cool, that makes sense. Well, I don't know, what's your thoughts on that sector? Do you think it's important to kind of try and keep the diversity, or actually is that kind of being able to get a guaranteed product the best thing? Do you think about the support the little guy big guy kind of thing in day-to-day life?
Yeah, totally. I think where we live, we're so lucky to have Southbourne on our doorstep, where you've just got so many independents, and you can just, and when you go there, it could be a husband and wife team, or it's someone that you kind of know, and it's nice reaching into your wallet and paying for that because it's going to someone that you genuinely care about. But then, in the same breath, you got a stonking hangover, and you just think, do you know what? I could just nail a Pizza Express right now, and you just go and do that. But I do try and err on the side of let's go and support the little guy, because that's what all we try and do is ask people to go and support the little guy too. But I would never take away someone's yearning for a glass bottle Coke, for example, which is fundamentally one of my favourite things, with a thin straw on holiday in Sri Lanka. Any day of the week, I'll have like 6 of them, because I just think it's amazing. But then you do have to do that stuff with a little guy because they're never going to be there otherwise. I think the ideal scenario is to have both, basically, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah.
Carrying on the business thing. So you go and talk to schools and you talk to the kids and try and inspire them to get into business and stuff like that. I'm conscious, I suppose, again, with this instant generation, you can kind of you can see what you want, you can see all the toys, you can see your access. You would dress up as a carton of coffee, basically, and parade around the streets to get people to kind of get interested in your brand. And we're so kind of like, passionate and out there, and reminded me a bit of, kind of Richard Branson and the PR stunts that he would do, your rap video and all that kind of stuff. How important do you think that is? And do you get the impression that there's this kind of, that there's a lot of people who want to go into business who don't recognise just how much you've got to want it and how hard it is? Or do you think actually, no, it's fine, they all get it?
No, it's I always say that with this, you have to you got to have this like sprinkling of craziness. You got to be prepared to really put yourself on the line, and for me, it was dressing up in cartons and going to shops and bits and pieces and, doing talks in a carton suit in front of 350 people, just doing that on its own, let alone wearing a silly carton costume, is a little bit different. And it's, you kind of, you get people that want to set up a business and you can just see that they're doing it because they like the sound of being an entrepreneur. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. Are you really? What's your thing? And I don't even like the term entrepreneur. I just think it's just a bit wanky.
It's way more socially acceptable now than it was, isn't it? I go back like 8 years ago. I would never have walked into a room and gone, "Hey, I'm an entrepreneur," but so you're a wanker.
Yeah, totally.
But now there does seem to be an exception. I still don't walk into a room and go, "Hi, I'm an entrepreneur." I mainly walk into a room and go, "Hi, I sell sandwiches," or I sell cheeseburgers, or whatever it
I'm
might
the
be.
iced coffee guy.
But yeah, it is now a thing though that seems to be acceptable.
Well, as soon as you've got an idea, if you've got an idea, then you can be an entrepreneur. You need to. I don't even know what one is. But I definitely know what one isn't as well.
Serial entrepreneurs, they're the one that really bug me.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn things, what do you do? I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Do you go around killing people with good ideas? I've got the best idea ever.
What is that guy? I'm interrupting. Go on.
No, that's kind of it. People kind of. I don't think they realise how ridiculously hard it is to do these things. And like we were chatting offline just a second ago, about like, would you ever go and do it again? And when Jimmy's is kind of all said and done, because I'm not passing it on to my children, I wouldn't dare, bless their hearts. They need a slightly easier life. I can't imagine anything more tiring than going, do you know what? I'm going to set up a little ready to eat Mexican rice microwavable pouch called something and go and sell it into supermarkets. I'd rather throw up in my eyeballs than do it all over again. Not saying it's not fun, but
absolutely.
Geez, you need like serious battery power and
And now you take what you've learned, presumably, so you'd be in a different place anyway with whatever came next. So I don't suppose you want to learn. You don't want to lose the knowledge that you've got now, but don't want to go back and do it all again to get that knowledge. It's
totally.
Is there a fast track way of getting all of that information in my head without the pain?
Yeah, exactly. And there's no. It's all about like if you're going to do something next, is what you're not going to do versus what you want to do, because you'll clear out so much rubbish from your brain about definitely what I don't want to do, and I know what I don't want to do, and I kind of know what I do want to do a little bit later down the line. But we've got plenty of time. It's all good.
Cool. So I think you've answered this question, but I kind of wonder what happens, particularly when you started and there's no kids, there's no wife, and it's just you, and you can put all of your energy in, and then you get to that point where you feel overwhelmed. I normally ask, do you feel overwhelmed? But you've kind of said you did, and that's kind of why you made the changes.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of that came from the complexities of that work-life balance, and all of a sudden having kind of kids in your life and stuff? Was it kind of like, look, I'm not going to waste this? What's your thoughts on how you carry on being a driven entrepreneur and have a family?
It is fundamentally getting all of your ducks in a line and actually getting your business to a point where you can take the time to enjoy, like, even if you don't have a family but you want to go surfing every day, then go surfing for the 2 hours in the morning every day, because if it clears your head and you suddenly get a new idea about a new tangent in business, and that's going to be the best way to do it. And then it's also hiring the right people. And then without the right people here, or without anyone here, then it would be Susan and I doing all we possibly can to drive the business forward. But you can't do everything. But as soon as you've got all the right people in place, then you can take that time to actually get a breather and enjoy what life actually has to offer. And that's, for me, that is dropping the kids off at school and being able to go and pick them up, and taking the day off to go and get some inspiration with our creative guy up in London, and things like that is what drives me now. It's not about necessarily sales. Sales are great, but that's managed by someone else. Us is about how we really enjoy the business journey and what's the next kind of big thing for us.
And I think you've always stuck to your guns. I remember so many of your videos and interviews, started with you on Southbourne cliff top, or overlooking the sea, or in a wetsuit. Is that still the case? That kind of that link to the beach? It never looked at any point that you were kind of going to go big and move to London. It's always been that your heart looks like it's by the seaside.
Always here. Yeah, always here. And I think a classic example, there's a real cool coffee company in the States out of Portland, Oregon, called Stumptown, and they champion Oregon as a place to live, grow up, do business, because they've got amazing hills, they've got surf, they've got amazing wildlife, and they champion it. And we just do, and we're not using them as an example because we started before them. But being down here, you've got such amazing stuff on your doorstep that you want to show people. And if it is a picture of the sea every day, you might be showing that to someone who lives in a real nasty part of town, or up in London where they don't get to see the sea. They just open up their curtains and they've got a brick wall in front of them. If they can log onto Instagram that morning and see exactly what the sea was doing 2 minutes ago, then that makes them a happier person too, because the sea is undeniably one of the most amazing things on the planet. And to be able to see that just for a split second each day kind of makes you go, okay, do you know what? Everything's pretty cool. And you want to be able to share that stuff with people. Our area is, this part of the world, this part of the UK in particular, is just, it's mind-boggling. When you've got the New Forest, you've got the Purbex, you've got the beach, you've got the Isle of Wight, you've got Mudderford, you've got Southbourne, you've got great, really cool people who will happily chat to you in the post office queue, who will happily say good morning when you walk by them when you're going for a jog down the beach. People are really, there are a lot of life enthusiasts down here in the south, and I fucking love that.
Yeah, same. I used to run Harrow Leisure Centre in London. It was a big... big grey building, big ugly car park, and I'd have to commute all the way across London to get to it. And now, my commute to work is down the zigzag onto the beach, and I get to Urban Reef.
Is that?
And actually, I don't even need to get there because Kay, our amazing bakers, in there 5 o'clock every morning taking pictures of the sunset.
Yeah.
Also sunrise at that time. They're both sunset, depending on how late she's gone out. And you just never tire of it. Every day, the sea looks different, the sky looks different. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that point of the cliff top as well, it's actually really nice and high, and there's always birds below you flying, and that perspective of the sea, I sound real hippie-ish, but you kind of like, you can't gulp it in enough. You can't take it in enough, and that's why it's so amazing, because you're never satisfied enough. You can just keep absorbing it, and that's just like, it's insane.
It is stunning. And social media, you mentioned then about, or I did, the Kay takes the pictures and posts it on Facebook. You seem to have built the brand off the back of your kind of like, your social presence. So Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Is that still the case? Is that still where most of the kind of like the conversation happens, or now is it more going, to the providers and the suppliers and kind of them doing it, or is it still all about you guys on social?
It's a mix of everything. We still have to push our social stuff as much as we can. I did our social. I ran all of our social media for about nearly 6 years. And do you know what? Replying to every single thing on Twitter, getting all of your messages, your check-ins on Facebook, your reviews, every comment on YouTube. If you don't comment back, they're like, oh my God, what's the point in posting something if they're not going to talk to me? And I totally understand that. You've got to be there for them. But man, that's exhausting stuff. You're trying to run a company and you're answering how many calories are in an original, for example, which don't ask me now. It can just be that's one of those kind of overwhelming things. And I had my own accounts of my own Instagram, my own Twitter, and my own Facebook, and my own LinkedIn, and I actually erased them all except for my Twitter one. And God, the feeling is so nice, because I kind of addicted to it, and it's just not cool at the end of the day. You can look at great pictures of waterfalls, people doing backflips, chicks in bikinis, dudes surfing, all this kind of stuff, but you're still sat there with your neck craned down, wanting to be someone else. And that's such a load of shit. Put your phone down and go for a walk and go and do something different.
Yeah.
But I mean, we still have to play in that space, because there's people who still love that, and it's a great way of communicating. But again, it's finding that balance.
Yeah. I always struggle I'm the same. We've got so many accounts. Every business has got an account. Then they've got the account on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. I've got my own personal stuff, and I'm like, I just can't keep up with it. I use it way less. I think the kids in particular, I think they're going to get to an age where they're just going to go and turn it off, because they're going to go, look, I lost my parents to those screens. They came around in an era and we don't know how to manage it. We kind of got, we've all got these
haven't got a clue how to manage
we don't know what to do. And I think they're going to kind of get to 20 and go, hey, I just remember my parents kind of like staring at these little screens, and like I wanted them to come and play. They probably
listen
don't. They
to
probably
me.
just want to go on the Xbox in reality. But I think hopefully there'll either be a backlash, or actually we'll just work it out. We're the first generation to have had this challenge and issue.
It'll be amazing to see how it pans out. I mean, we went to Jersey just before Christmas to go and see Sophie's mum and dad, and we sat in the airport and we just bought a couple of pads and some colouring pencils for the kids, and we were helping them draw sharks and all this kind of stuff. And this lady came up to us and she said, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say it's so refreshing to see parents sitting with their kids, teaching them how to draw, rather than both kids on iPads and both parents on the phones. Totally. You're just like, this is so nice to see. And we were like, oh, well, Thanks. And we do that quite a lot with the kids. We're kind of anti giving them phones and bits and pieces, and it's so much more rewarding.
Yeah.
And you get less tantrums because, yeah, I mean, you see the kids in front of the TV. You know, my kids can navigate their way around Netflix, and you know, when growing up in Dubai, we just had channel 33, and that would only come on at 4:30 in the afternoon. Whereas these kids can come down like 7:30 in the morning and choose between 60 different cartoon characters. And when it's two of them, one of them wants Jungle Bum and the other one wants something else, and they're fighting over it at 7:30. You're like, geez, what are we doing?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
And they've got no idea what live TV is. You know, like my wife, is that on now? And like, you know, like my daughter's like, what? And even last night, navigating around the TV for her. But we're the same. I mentioned it earlier, so I feel like I mentioned it twice. But you know, we got the caravan. We go off camping in the forest, and I love to
that's
get
rad.
and we have a no tech rule. You know, so we sit there, and we play cards, and we draw stuff, and try and make sure we do it. We're by no means perfect. But
favorite camping spot?
I really like. There's a place called Mackley Wood in the New Forest.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Which is not far away. Which is one of the reasons I like it, but it's also got no facilities. There's no hut, there's no toilet, there's nothing.
Oh, cool.
It's in a kind of little crevice in the forest. I can't believe I'm telling people this now, because what I like about it is there's no other bugger there, Jimmy. It's brilliant.
And now it's packed, and they've got a toilet block.
Yeah. You can only get about 50 pitches.
Disco.
I say that one. That's my favourite local one, because you can get right into the trees, into the forest. It's not pitches, so you can just kind of like, it feels.
And
a
then
bit
you
like
can put
camping.
off-road button on the disco.
Yeah, exactly.
Days,
I can drive through a puddle. My other one is a place in Coniston, a place called Pier Cottage, in the Lake District, and you can camp as far away as we are with each other now, which is 3-4 foot from the water. It's only takes about 12 pitches, so you're right on the waterfront. You look out over Lake Coniston. It's my happy place. It is so calm, and I love the fact that you wake up in the morning there. And it's like a mirror.
You take the caravan up there as well?
Yeah. Take it up there. And it's surrounded by mountains. So, I paddle out on the kayak or go out on the paddleboard out to the middle of Lake Coniston.
Oh, woof.
You can hear nothing. You look around, and I can literally visualize it now as I talk about it. You sort of see the sunset reflecting off the rocks high up on the peaks nearby.
If you did a big you get a massive echo all around you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
That is probably not, Milford Sound in New Zealand, but I can't take my caravan there.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favourite places on planet Earth. The middle of Lake Coniston, on my kayak on my own. Might let the dogs swim out to me on a good day and have a little bit. Not that I love my kids and my wife, but just those, that like half an hour in the middle of Lake Coniston. Last, just getting to the end. It's kind of the what's next piece, really. I'm really excited that you've kind of like got a team around you now. I remember seeing you, if it was 18 months ago, maybe 2 years, and thinking, for the first time, there was just a little bit where you thought that kind of like relentless enthusiasm and passion that you need. I thought for the first time, well, Jimmy looked a bit tired today, and I don't think I've ever seen you apart from like on like 300%.
Yeah.
And I remember touching on whether you'd sell it and somebody would come and buy it out and stuff like that, and whether you could maintain that kind of energy and enthusiasm you needed.
Yeah.
So it looks good now that you've got a team around you and you found a new role.
Yeah.
So what's next? What's the dream scenario? How does the next 5 years plan out? Are you going to sell it tomorrow, or are you going to carry on this trajectory?
We're not going to sell it tomorrow, but we do. There's two-prong attack here. One is you've only got a certain number of years on this planet, and I like chapters. I did 18 years in Dubai. I'm in my 19th year in the UK. I'd love to go and do another 18 years somewhere else with my kids, but I can't because I've still got iced coffee to be dealing with. So ideally in the next few years, it would be nice to be able to part ways with it on a high and kind of high five the company and go, thanks for such a great time, and pass it on to someone who believes in what we believe and still does even better for what we want to do. So whether that's partnering with a big trade company or someone who wants to take it on, that's kind of like the goal in the next few years. And people, it's interesting, you tell people that sometimes and they go, oh, you're just a big sellout, you're this, that and the other. But unless you know, then you don't know. Do you know what I mean? And I've had such a great time, and I think it's kind of like within the next 3 years, I'd love to see someone pick it up and go kaboom with it. And it's funny, when you start a food or drinks company, just like you would start a rock band or a pop band or whatever, you're always going to have your superstar. So you'll have your Beyonce, you'll have your Eminem, and you have that same thing within the food industry. And you go through these funnels, and eventually one of them will just go pop and turn into something mega stardom, kind of like the Vita Coco and the Innocence of this world. They just, right time, right place, a little bit of luck, amazing management team, amazing crew, and they just get to stardom. And we're not the headline act, but we're kind of we're in another massive dance tent, for example, and I don't want to ever play in a local pub. I don't want to lose that, and I want to keep that projection going. And one of the most sensible ways to do that is to partner with someone bigger who can pull you up that ladder and then chuck you onto the main stage. And if we can get that, then that would just be sick as balls. That'd be really
amazing.
Cool. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, I love that analogy. Well, good luck with that. I'll be fascinated to see. And I think you're right. Unless you don't get it unless you get it. And as a fellow entrepreneur who's kind of like 14 years for us, doing what we do. I think it's not about doing nothing, but it's about creating space. You're full of other ideas and full of other things you could be doing. And it's that opportunity cost of doing this means, what would you be doing if you weren't doing this? And taking that time out and seeing it as another chapter.
Totally.
I think so important to allow yourself that kind of freedom, because who knows what amazing, cool shit, creative stuff would come out of you if you weren't doing this. So I think, you're curating that opportunity to do that.
And that's already happening. Already got some really rad ideas, which talk about way later down the line, but it's nice to have that little bit of brain space to go, I've got a bit of space free to think about, that's exciting and this is really exciting. What's actually really, really important? And
is it a small Mexican pouch of food called something that you're going to sell in Tesco's?
It's not, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd check. And how many No, I'm not going to. Cool. Well, look, I'd love to come back and have that conversation
that'd be cool.
in the future around what's going to come next. Where can people find out more about you or Jimmy's and all the kind of stuff? Where should they be heading?
Just standard, just jump online and type us in and you'll find us on pretty much every platform apart from Snapchat, which I actually got myself the other day just so I can do the you know how you can change your face on it?
Yeah.
So
I say yes. I don't know.
I just sit with my kids and we just change our face and it changes your voice as well. So over the Christmas period we were just howling, just making these stupid faces. I've got one pending request which I'm still not doing, but just that whole facial thing is
I downloaded it about 6 months ago to try and get my head around it when everyone said you needed to, and I spent 10 minutes trying to work it out and went, shit, I'm old.
Forget it.
I don't actually know what I'm doing.
I'm totally in your camp.
And I was a bit slightly disappointed and then quite excited because I was like, well, that's one that I don't have to worry about it because I can't. It's not that I don't want to use it. I can't use it.
Amazing.
I don't know how.
Yeah, brilliant.
So I deleted it. So cool.
But there, so online, and then you can find us here at our unit, or you can find us in pretty much every supermarket except for Co-op and Asda. Damn you to Hades. No, we love you really. But yeah, pretty much every other retailer you can go and snaffle us up.
And in Waterloo Station from when was it?
We're going to be there from this Monday for 2 weeks.
That's not going to work because there's no way this podcast is going to be out before this Monday. And thank you for not dating it because who knows when this Monday is. But if you go to Waterloo
2042.
If you go to Waterloo on Monday, especially for this, I'm sorry. Unless Jimmy's still there.
8 years too late.
In which case that's fine. Cool. Well, look, it's genuinely been so excited to kind of share a town with you, let alone share an industry and see what you do and what you get up to. You're one of the local kind of dudes and legends. So thank you for sparing the time.
Thanks for coming in, man. It's great to see you.
We'll catch up again soon.
Yeah.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Well. Cheers, man.
So there you have it. You have reached the end of another episode of the Humans of Hospitality podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please go and visit our website, humansofhospitality.co.uk, for the show notes and extra episodes and information. And whilst you're there, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and to receive free materials all about the humans behind our incredible industry. Lastly, if you could subscribe, rate and review this podcast, you will be massively helping me out and it would be hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. We'll be launching another podcast in just 7 days' time. Cheers.